Morning, Jason.
Good morning, Michael. How's it going?
Oh, pretty awesome. Yeah, great day so far. Hey, Kyle. Welcome.
Oh, hello,
Hey,
everybody.
Devin. Story time
Great
with
to
J
have you all
Dub.
here. Yeah.
We're starting to get a few people streaming in here, so I think we could get kicked off in another minute or two. Feel free to,
Perfect.
as you drop in, drop your location of where you're joining us from if you would like. We have the amazing Jason Wright presenting with us today.
Story time with JW. Yep. Yep. Got a little bit of story, a little bit of fun times here. Looking forward to running through a bunch of things. Got a big presentation. Want to run through it, get through all of it in the next 45 minutes to an hour. I'm really excited to be here and share all of this information and tactics with you.
Awesome, Jason. I know we're beyond excited for the presentation today and for all the insights you're going to share on how important story is. And whenever you're ready to get kicked off, I know we might want to hold up a couple minutes for everybody to stream in, but whenever you're ready to get kicked off, just give me a heads up and we can get going.
Yeah, we'll give everyone another minute or so here since
Perfect.
we just started the stream. Hello, Brian. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. If you are tuning in from YouTube, I would love it. You don't have to, but I would love it if you would drop a like on the video. It helps bring visibility to the video. And if you're at work or with friends, drop the video in Slack, share it with them. If you want, you don't have to, but there's some entertaining things in here. I think we'll have a good time, and I'm excited to run through this.
It's going to be an awesome presentation. I had a little sneak peek, and there's some great stuff to be
Well,
shared.
don't, come on. It's going to be solid. Don't hype it up too much, because
Okay,
then
okay, okay. I'll
you're
temper
setting the bar like really high.
I can appreciate that.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Let's kick it off. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Webfor's monthly webinar on how to be relentlessly you, brand stories, and business results. I'm Michael Patrick Cortez, your host and Webfor's marketing manager. I'm so excited to have you all here today, and I'm thrilled to be joined by our speaker, Jason Wright. Jason is Web4 partner, COO, and director of creative with over 20 years experience in the digital marketing industry. He's an industry speaker on CRO, design, and more, and even recently spoke at the Engage conference in PDX Engage, and it was an amazing, insightful presentation on how CRO can impact your business. Today, Jason will be sharing stories and insights in how to make your brand stand out and why story is so important to resonating with your target audience. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Jason. All right, Jason, I'm ready to hand it off to you.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to dive in. And after I put this together, I was like, oh man, be relentlessly you. It's kind of a tongue twister. It's hard to say fast, but I just ran with it. I think it sounds good. And we're going to be talking about brand stories and business results. So first of all, welcome to this presentation. I really appreciate you being here. I'm really excited to go through the content that we have today. We're going to be talking about brand stories and connecting with your audience and connecting with customers and buyers and all kinds of things. As Michael mentioned, I have a lot of experience in this space. I've been in agency for close to 16 years. I've been doing creative work for, I don't know, since I was 15 years old. I'm a speaker at local events and conferences at like Engage, WSU, and a range of other things. I've worked with all kinds of businesses over the course of my career, as you can imagine, anyone from your local carpet cleaner all the way up to Crockpot, Tony Robbins, Weed Maps, all kinds of businesses in between. I really love building things, and I love storytelling, and I love structure, which is kind of weird because there's this duality of like structure, but creativity and paint. But yeah, if you can see behind me, it's a little bit blurred. I love Legos, and that's sort of a testament to that opportunity to put together puzzles and follow things and make creative things happen and build something from nothing. This is my family. This is my dog and my wife. My dog likes to crush me all the time, all the time. She's adorable, though. I love her. She's a nightmare a lot of the time, but still love her. I like to do photography. I like to do all kinds of things. And as we go through this presentation, there's lots of different things I'm going to be covering. And I hope that you're able to pull something out of here. I do tend to meander a little bit, but it should be fun. And I also only talk about things that I know. And that's really important for me to state. Fun fact, before we get started, this was my first desk back in 2006, which feels like the Stone Age, probably sounds like the Stone Age for a lot of you, but this was my first desk. But to clarify, it's not the one in the middle. It's this one. It's a piece of wood and a steel rod and probably the oldest monitor you've ever seen, the oldest keyboard you've ever seen, the oldest mouse you've ever seen, with the smallest chair in the world. It was built from scraps. It was my first gig, first time in agency, and I was a link builder. And I've been doing all kinds of different things over the course of my career. When I started from link building, I went to development, went to design, operations, project management, all kinds of stuff. But it's just really funny. I thought I'd share that. We all start somewhere, right? I didn't have those nice fancy desks right out of the gate. I had this slab of wood and that pole, but that's where I started. So today we're going to be talking about brands, brand stories, understanding some of their stories and performance, and we'll talk about some practical things that you can do and you can implement for your business or your personal brand, that sort of thing. So I want to touch first on ideating. You know, we love to generate ideas, especially if you have an entrepreneurial mindset and you get very excited about coming up with things to do. If you're like me, I have lots of lists, lots of lists of things that I would like to do. But, you know, sometimes you got to narrow those down. The hard thing about ideating is that, well, that's the easy part. It's actually more difficult to execute. And it's easy to ideate and overthink and stagnate and just sort of continue throwing thought bubbles out there without taking action. One of the things that separates businesses from ones that are successful and some that are not is the ability to execute, to dig deep, to stay in the trench, and work hard to keep striving to reach those things and those goals and those objectives that you have. So you have to stop overthinking sometimes and just start taking action, because over time, execution trumps ideas. You can have 1,000 ideas, but if you don't take action, that's a problem. You're not going to succeed in those areas. You're just generating ideas. And it's hard because as humans, we want to dabble. We don't want to feel trapped. So it's really important to be focusing on things that you love and products you love and services that you love, and building that up and ideating around that and executing on that to eventually harmonize all those things and bring them together. It's okay to have lots of different ideas that you're generating over the years or months or weeks or whatever that might be, but it's really important those ideas come together in execution. And that can be success and failure. All of it is learning at the end of the day. And failure is a really important part of the process because failure is feedback. When you launch your idea and you move it forward and you promote this product and it doesn't work, that's information. You're able to come back, strategize, and build more success and more feedback from there. So bringing all of those thought bubbles together is a critical component to long-term success and long-term growth and long-term sustainability. But as I mentioned, if you've ever seen this game, you don't always win the car. You don't always get the $100 either. Sometimes you hit zero. And for us, we do have, in some ways, an unlimited number of chips to put down Plinko. And so it gives you opportunity to eventually hit the car. So when you connect that with ideas, the concept is that you shouldn't quit. You should keep pursuing your goals, your aspirations, your business objectives, and understand that you aren't always going to get the car. You're going to hit zero. It's part of the game. That's part of the process. But you have the power to take control and take action. So let's talk about crafting the story. And we'll talk about relationship development specifically through a little concept I called building the app. And it's just an easy way for you to remember. So what is this? App stands for attention, parasocial, and pack. We're going to talk about what each of these things mean. So attention is the most lucrative asset in the world, in the marketing landscape, at least in my opinion, because attention means that you have the capability to push products and services to a group that's paying attention to you. And that's really important. Without attention, you can't have sales and marketing and deals that close, because attention is required to get visibility, to then drive people to your website, to then take some kind of action. That can be in the form of a live stream like this. It could be in the form of your YouTube videos, your reels, your website, all kinds of things. Attention is the game. It is an incredibly important element of marketing. The idea of attention economy was coined by Herbert Simon in 1960, which is kind of crazy because this is before the internet, and he characterized information overload as an economic problem. Before the internet, right? Before pixels. This individual saw the information economy as something that could challenge us in the future. The United Nations has an interesting article on this. I wasn't expecting to come across that. There's all kinds of source links and things in this presentation. I will share the slide deck afterwards so you can access all those things and see that for yourself. Revenue for the 5 big tech companies was nearly $1.4 trillion in 2021. And this is what I want to highlight. Their profits increased by 55% in that year alone. That is insane, right? These companies are like Google and Apple and some of those. Of course, they've got physical products, digital products, search engines, all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of things there. But just thinking about the impact that has, that's crazy. And how about this? The attention economy could add 10 to 15 trillion to the global GDP over the next few decades. Now, I just want you to think about that. 10 to 15 trillion in global GDP over the next few decades. The attention economy. Well, how are we capturing attention? Well, it's probably through some form of advertisement or video or recording or photo or graphic or something like that. So pixels, and maybe I'm oversimplifying, right? But pixels on your screen could add 10 to 15 trillion to global GDP. That's insane. That's an insane amount of money going into the system solely connected to information and attention economy. Parasocial is about giving the audience the feeling that you're uniquely connected to them. So this is really prevalent in the streaming community. Anyone who's watched a streamer, a live streamer, a YouTuber, or whatnot, and you've done so on some sort of regularity, you'll understand that streamers spend a lot of time engaging and interacting with the audience because that's part of the process. It's like what we're doing here, where an individual posted a live stream comment that they have high expectations. Well, you know what? We'll see. All right. I hope I don't let you down. But that's creating a parasocial connection. It's this idea that I'm speaking to you. And in the streamer community, this is extremely important because creating those relationships, while they feel inauthentic, there is some authenticity to them, especially if you're a repeat viewer. Streamers start remembering you. They remember things about you. And you feel that as an individual, and you get the sense of significance and importance. And that's something that all humans want and deserve. So it's very interesting. And you can create parasocial relationships in a lot of ways. But if you want to remove the word parasocial and just say relationship, it's one and the same. Attention, relationship, bringing people in, connecting with them, and then taking the next step. So as I mentioned, this is really rampant in live streaming and the creator economy. People are doing this through websites and live streams and all those sort of things. This is, I say not just online, but I'm not a wordsmith. I don't have the right words necessarily, but I just want to communicate that these dynamics happen in person too, right? you're at a networking event, you approach Jane Doe and you're like, "Hey, Jane Doe, how are you? What do you do?" And you're like, "Oh, okay, I do this. Oh, that's great. Well, great to see you. See you next time." Then you see them again at the next networking event. But you don't really know them. You know their name and you know where they work. If you remember that, hopefully you do because it's important in networking. But you see them again and you say hi again and maybe you share a presentation together and you have this sort of connection, but you're not really buddies. You don't really know each other very well. It's a sort of distant relationship, but there's the familiarity. Same thing if you have like a basketball game that you go to for your kids and you see John Doe and he's the dad and you always see them at the game. There's this frequency that happens where you both capture each other's attention, you have this familiarity between each other, and that creates relationship. And even in that minor sense, that can lead to business opportunity. It can lead to referring people to other businesses because that's what a lot of this is about. It's about meeting people, grabbing attention, connecting with them, and taking action from there, helping them find a service or referring them to somebody else, or maybe you own a business and that you can support them, right? 51% of Americans have likely been in a parasocial relationship. Only 16% admit to it. It's kind of interesting, right? So the last P in app is PAC. That was a lot to say. Platforms and culture, all right? So it is what it sounds like. It's social media platforms and the culture that revolves around those platforms because each platform has a slightly different nuanced culture to them. So what's really interesting about platforms is that we are often blinded by our own bias, especially when it comes to new platforms that are coming out, ones the kids are using and all that sort of stuff. The bottom line, though, is social media is for everyone. All businesses, all individuals on all platforms. Now, when new things launch, we like to have this idea that, well, here's TikTok and this is for kids and all the kids are using it and that's where the kids are. That's not actually reality. Sure, that might be at the start because younger generations gravitate to new things much sooner and much faster. There's a higher rate of adoption there. But it's the platforms are for everyone because eventually the kids move on to something else. The adults get interested in what the kids are doing. They go on the platforms, and it's just sort of like constant cyclical nature of this environment, which honestly we don't have a lot of like history on, right? Social media has been around for 10, 15, I don't know, some years, right? So we don't have a whole lot of information to back up behavior. We're starting to get that now, though. 78% of TikTok users purchased a product after seeing it featured on TikTok creator content. That's crazy, right? 78% of TikTok users. That's wild. But it is video driven, and video is one of the highest converting platform or media types that you could produce. So I mentioned this. TikTok is for kids, right? Well, let's look. I mean, we could have feelings, but let's look at the data. Ages 10 to 29 make up 25% of users. Okay, that's a lot. And I'll just move through this and show you there's kind of a broad range of percentages here for demographics. Take a look at the 30 to 39% range, 21% of users. Ages 40 to 49, 20% of users. So this means ages 10 to 29 are 47.4% of all users. So very interesting, right? That's actually kind of the minority in some ways. Especially if you look at 10 to 19 and you move 20 and up to a different bracket, actually kids make up the lowest percentage of users on the platform. Now, I believe these are all, or this is US stats, but I'm going to take a look at something else here in a second. But here's something else I want to show. Oftentimes we'll think, oh, I can't, what am I supposed to do here as a business? But look at this example. Here's a home inspector, 1.8 million followers and 46 million likes. A home inspector. Now he might have a show. I don't know anything about him. I don't have any background. Looks like he's in Tennessee, right? No background, but highly successful. Here's one, an emergency vet, much smaller. 70,000 followers, 4 million likes. Look at the description, small animal emergency vet. Okay, that's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. Here's dentist, 3 million followers, 40 million likes. A roofer. There's barely a description there. Just got YouTube roofing solutions by Eric Garcia, and things aren't capitalized correctly. That's okay. There might be some limitation there. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but he's got 69,000 followers and 125,000 likes. Massive. These are businesses that are extremely successful on TikTok. However, what's really challenging about TikTok is that it's video content. Video. So when you're thinking about building your brand story and building up social media engagement, you have to understand that it takes energy, effort, hard work to make that happen. You have to be able to generate the assets, because what makes social media work is you being your authentic self. Okay, spending a lot of time here, but I want to move on to this stat, which is 52% of TikTok users are over 30 years old. So if there are 1.7 billion users on TikTok, and we take that percentage, and this is close-ish, about 838 million are older than 29 years old. I just want you to think about that for a second. 838 million. Put them in a 10 by 10 room. We can't, right? Because it's a lot of people. But that's significant opportunity. And those 19-year-olds, those 20-somethings, they're going to be starting businesses in 5 to 10 years. They're going to be moving into this other percentage bracket, right? The younger generation may start, the younger demographic may start reducing on TikTok as people start gravitating to whatever the next platform is. That's just how we're cycling. So let's talk about some brand stories. So we got that concept of, just remember, app, building the app, attention, parasocial, and platforms and culture. Now let's take a look at how some brands have done this over the years. There's some really memorable brands and personalities on here. Some you're not going to know. That's okay. They're YouTubers and streamers. Others you're going to know, like the Golden Arches, or the Kool-Aid Man, or the Pixar lamp, that sort of thing. And even in cases where you have something like Campbell's, you might not even read the actual word Campbell's, but you know that type treatment and that red background, and you just know it's soup. You just have this feeling, like, without reading it, you just know it's soup. And that's because brands are staying consistent and using their visual identity to keep them top of mind for you as you're looking at products and services. I mean, there's all kinds of things we'll get in here, but let's talk about Dr. Disrespect. Hilarious one, right? I'm sure many of you who are listening right now are like, oh my God, he's doing the thing. He's doing the streamer thing. I didn't expect this, but look, it's important. I'll explain why. So this is Dr. Disrespect. He's a streamer and content creator. He's created by Herschel Beam, or Guy, as people call him. But he began his streaming career in 2011, and he's 41 or 42 years old, which makes him one of the oldest and most successful streamers in the world right now as a content creator. The thing about him and his story, it totally revolves around character. So this picture that you see on the screen is his character, and he stays in character wherever he goes. Public events, signings, photo ops, football games, food, everywhere. And he's been doing that for, well, probably since 2011. So pushing 12 years. That's a long time. His current estimated net worth is $7 million, and he has some of the highest production value of all of the streamer community, focusing on sort of like a 80s retro vibe, kind of Blade Runner style. And it's really hilarious. He's super entertaining. And I don't have to say that or believe that. You just look at the metrics. He's got 113 million hours watched, okay, since this has been tracking. I don't know how far back it goes, but it stopped around 2020, 2021 when he left the platform. Twitch was the platform. But he's got 113 million hours watched. That's a lot of time. And by the way, I'm a little bit dyslexic, so I had to do the math 47 times before I got this correct. But that means 113 million hours breaks down to 4,700,000 days, or 13,000 years watched. It's just fun to think about it that way. That is so much time and so much consumption. It's just insane. So I want to go back to this though, because we got 113 million hours watched, but look at the consistency of hours streamed and follower growth. Now, the charts are a little misleading in terms of how they appear, but the red line is the hours streamed. The blue line is the total followers. So you can just see as he's continued to progressively stream, take breaks every now and then, that's where the gaps are. You can see his follower accounts continue to go up. So consistency is so important. Staying in character, staying committed to your schedule, streaming your content, engaging with your audience, building attention, building those parasocial relationships is huge. Because think about the opportunities he has here. With 113 million hours watched, 21,517 average viewers, means that he can push that to other brands and other other people who may want to sponsor him, and push for big ad agreements of $50,000, $100,000, $500,000, because so many people he has so many people watching, right? He's captured their attention. All right, let's look at something a little bit more practical here. McDonald's, you know the golden arches, right? Love them, hate them. I know we all have our thoughts, but you know the arches. You just know them. It was founded in 1940, almost 100 years ago. So keep that in the back of your mind. Decades of development. They have over 40,000 restaurants globally, and I kind of got confused about this stat because I think there's other things that they do besides McDonald's restaurants, but I found numbers to be a little bit confusing there. I did find a stat that said 100 billion. They had 100 billion in sales in 2019, which is kind of wild. That made up 4% of global restaurant industry sales. That's absolutely massive. And we know they have global reach, branding, they have all kinds of celebrity deals. They've had celebrity meals, which is crazy. I'm sure that's been pretty effective because they roll them out fairly consistently. But they've worked with Michael Jordan, LeBron, Jay Leno, Travis Scott, all kinds of people, and this is just a short list. And they can do that because they've been building up their business for over 100 years, and they keep iterating, and they keep changing, and they keep adapting, and they keep improving. Their gross profit for 2023 ending June was $14 billion. Profit was $14 billion, a 6.5% increase year over year. Absolutely massive. All right, let's take a look at another. Steve Jobs. Now, I know when I say that name, some of you might be like, Apple or Steve Jobs, not a good dude. We can argue that, but here's the bottom line. Steve Jobs is someone who co-founded Apple. Something that he brought to the table was an aggressive focus on constant innovation, constant product development, constant software development at a consistent rate. And we're still seeing that today. But in 1997, they were really struggling. They launched a Think Different campaign. They were on the verge of bankruptcy. And that campaign helped catapult them to where they are today. It brought in celebrities. It brought in a new story. It brought in some branding changes. It brought in new products and new ideologies. And that whole refresh really took them to the next level. They grew from 8,000 employees to now today, or in 2019, up to 137,000 employees. That's massive. They went from $7 billion in revenue to $260 billion in 2019. Massive. But they have a consistent release schedule. They are very consistent about product output. Every few quarters out of the year, they've got a presentation. They've got their developer conference. They got their spring announcements, their fall announcements, their software updates. It's huge. And that takes a significant amount of manpower to do. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of stuff that's getting processed. He wasn't always well liked. A lot of people had struggles working with him, but he has been admired by entrepreneurs for decades because of the business results that he achieved. What's funny about the Think Different campaign, though, is that Jobs really insisted he wanted different to be used as a noun. So, like, as in like think victory or think beauty, something like that, or excuse me, think big. So they revised differently to be different. And what's kind of funny about that is two different people came up with that. It was 2-letter difference, but two different people came up with those concepts. So I'm going to put this on my screen, take a drink here, but here are some of the celebrities and past historical figures that were included in the Think Different campaign. Lots of different faces. They had a pretty aggressive ad campaign. I want to say they had a Super Bowl commercial, that sort of thing. A lot of energy went into that, and it worked. It was effective. Anyone who is an Apple fan who's been tuning into their events are very familiar with this line. Their consistency, like I said, paid off. And every time they're on the stage, they use this form or set of language. It's the best or most powerful iPhone we've ever created, or MacBook, or iPad, or whatever it is. It's the most advanced iPad we've ever created. And they do that because, and now we expect it, because they are telling a story. They're telling you a few different things in there, that it's new technology, it's new innovation, and it's the best the market has to offer. So why wouldn't you buy it? Why wouldn't you? And we do buy it. In 2022, there were 225 million iPhone shipments. Absolutely crazy. 225 million iPhone shipments. All right, last example here. Then we're going to get into some other goodies. Ninja. You should know Ninja because he's one of the most popular streamers in the world. Definitely in the last 3-4 years, he's been at the top of the industry. He's currently 32. He's recognized as portraying himself as kind of funny, outlandish, high energy, a lot of trash talk, that sort of thing. He's made a lot of big brand risks by switching platforms. He was on Twitch for a long time. He switched to Mixer and back to Twitch. He's currently not signed anywhere, and he streams everywhere, like on all different platforms like we are right now. Actually, I think he uses the same platform we do. His deal with Mixer lasted a short time. Like, he went over there as a brand risk because he wanted to start developing a platform that didn't have so many overarching people managing things, because Twitch is owned by Amazon, and there's a lot of hierarchy in there. It's not very flat. But going to Mixer gave him the opportunity to have some creative control in that space. Unfortunately, Microsoft decided to shut down Mixer in a year or less, but he had a buyout clause in his contract. So Microsoft ended up paying him between 20, 25 to 30 million in a buyout contract because they terminated his agreement. So today his net worth is around 40 million. He's all over the place. This guy, his net worth 40 million. He's been streaming a long time, though, more than 10 years, more than maybe 12. But here's some of his metrics. Now look at the difference. 358 million hours watched. And that gap you see in that green chart down below, I believe, is when he switched over to Mixer for a period of time, then came back to Twitch. Which is interesting because if you had looked at the statistics for this, he was on the downturn in terms of popularity. He peaked at 616,000 viewers. I think that's when he played with Drake. But just massive amount of attention. I mean, 318 million hours is like, what, 40,000 years or something? Some crazy stat compared to Dr. Disrespect, right? So he did a lot of like brand shifts and transitions. He moved from foul mouth to kid friendly. He created a much larger audience because of that and was able to monetize that significantly. He started wearing a headband on stream. He's sold so many shirts, sweaters, jeans, pants, all kinds of things as part of capturing attention and connecting with his audience over the last decade plus. You do this thing called the pon pon. You can see it on the screen. You do it every time he won a match. And the next thing you know, it becomes a cultural phenomenon in the streaming community where he would go to events and kids are doing this and they're doing it in the street and they're doing it in his line and waiting because he's creating that connection with them. He's creating this sort of brand story and he's scaling as a result. But after so many different switches and going back and forth and moving from style to style, his viewership started dropping, his opportunities started to reduce over time, because that's just part of what happens. And what's important here, and the takeaway here, is being your authentic self is a critical component of your success. Hiding behind a mask or a character works only if you enjoy it. If you're using a mask to build product, build brand, build service, that will burn you out eventually. And it will result in a very harsh brand shift when you just like, I'm not wearing the mask anymore. Well, then you have a situation where those people who followed you for a long time may no longer follow you anymore, and you'll need to capture a brand new audience. This Pon Pon thing got so popular, he was doing on Jimmy Fallon's show. He's the first esports athlete to be on the cover of ESPN magazine, has a book, deal with the Detroit Lions, voice gigs and some movies and whatnot, all kinds of stuff, right? He's currently with Complexity Gaming, which is it's owned by the Cowboys owner. I forget his name at the moment, as one of the creative voices behind the brand. So over the span of 4 years, he played over 20,000 matches of Fortnite, because that's what he's best known for. He's won over 7,500 of them, which is a 36% win rate. Okay, so if you don't know gaming or competitive gaming, that's okay. I'll just say that's an extremely high win rate. That's very, very high. It means he's very, very good at the game. And that leads to kind of my whole point here between these different examples, which is they're some of the best to ever do it, right? So they focused on a particular brand idea, product, service, story, whatever that might be, and then they just dug deep for 10, 20, or 100 years and just stuck to it, failed, succeeded, and continued to grow as a result. And it's so challenging to understand like how much work goes into this stuff, because what we see is the end product, right? But there's so much work that goes into not just the ideating, but all the execution and all the people that are connected at all levels to make these things happen. Each of these individuals or businesses knew who they were. They knew who they wanted to be, and they focused and they doubled down. And when they failed, they made sure that they measured their failures, collected feedback, reset, and started again, because that's the process. That's the process in digital marketing too. You have a reasonable strategy, you make a plan, you execute the plan, and then you come back and you look, okay, did it work? Oh, it didn't work. Okay, what didn't work about it? Okay, it was this thing, this line that we said, this graphic we used, this concept we used, but it didn't work. Okay, well, great. Let's remove that. Let's use some different language and let's try this again. And that's the process. Test, keep running, keep trying, keep doing. And that's how you get to where you want to go. The other part of this is like actually believing in your product. There's so many businesses that don't really believe in their product. It's just the thing they got good at, and here they are, and now we're successful. But the product and your belief in it is part of what's going to create the success. Because again, just like the wearing the mask concept, if you don't believe in the product, you're going to lose your energy and enthusiasm really quick. So you have to make sure that there's some level of interest, some level of excitement, because people are going to feel that through your brand, through the stories that you're telling, through the stories that you're sharing. And it's the relentless pursuit, right? It's like there's no quit attitude, because there's two outcomes when you're striving to achieve something, whether you're a local roofer who wants to get more people in, or your personal brand who wants to get some speaking gigs. It's the relentless pursuit of getting those things. Like, what's your next step? And what's the next step after that? And once you achieve this, what's the next step after that? It's about goal setting and moving the goalpost every time you reach a certain amount of success. And there's only two outcomes, right? Succeed or fail. And both are great, because again, when things don't work out, you can make adjustments to what you're doing to improve your outcomes for the future. All right, some stats I want to get into and then some examples. So 92% of consumers want brands to make ads that feel like a story. Okay. 65% of people feel an emotional connection to a brand after a story. All right, but how about this one, the big one? Branded content that tells a story is 22 times more engaging than a simple ad. That makes sense, right? Makes sense to me. I mean, it just makes sense. That's more interesting. Companies with a strong brand story outperform their competitors by 20%. We see this all the time. Sometimes we pretend we don't, but we see this all the time in Nike commercials. You see them in like animal shelter commercials, telling a story, right? They're connecting to you emotionally, and then banking on that for you to take action. What are all these stats here? What do they all have in common? Well, it's about feeling. Like we buy emotionally. It's about generating the feeling. You want the user to feel something, and you want them to take an action based off of what they're feeling. And you want that to be an authentic connection. You want to capture their attention through that media, whatever platform you're using, right? Bring them in, create that relationship to you through content, through product, through story, and then they'll take action as a result. All right, understanding your story. So I think it's really important to tell your story. If you've got a website, social media platforms, telling your story, being consistent about that's really important. But it's not always the story of like how much money you want to make and how big the business this and how much revenue that and that sort of thing. People want to know the struggle. They want to know the real story. Even if they don't want to know it or they don't think they want to know it, they do, because it'll create an emotional connection. I mean, the human story is all about overcoming adversity, right? That's what we're doing all the time. So we're overcoming challenges. And the magic in story is in that duality of pain and pleasure. That idea or the story of, I only had a box of mac and cheese in my cupboard. It was Christmas. I didn't have the cheese packet. My daughter was here. Was recently separated, and now I'm in this situation. I'm unhappy with my personal life. I'm unhappy with my work life. I was as low as I could get. I couldn't get any lower on one of the best times of the year for my daughter, and I didn't have anything for her. And that was the time I decided I needed to make a change. Well, now you probably want to know the rest of the story, right? But that hook brings you in, and that's a real story from someone that I know. And those stories create huge impact. So let me give you an example of my story. I started in the agency setting. I wanted to be a graphic designer, a web designer. In one of my first gigs, there was an opportunity that, for me to do some work there. But in the lead up, I was going through school, and I was going for a business administration degree, and I had a very close family member give me some feedback that I didn't want to hear, because I didn't want to do the business admin degree anymore. You know why? I failed math like 9 times. Okay? Like 9 times. I started at the lowest level, 2 plus 2, negative 2 plus 1. And then I got all the way up to calculus. I failed calculus 3 times. And I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm out. I'm done. I ain't doing this no more. I'm going my own route. I'm doing my own thing. I'm going to be my own person, make my own decisions. Well, family don't like that so much sometimes. And when I said that I was done with business administration degree, this is what was said to me. Stick to what you're good at. And at the time, that was 9 years. Well, let's see. It was 6 years as a cashier. And close person to me said, stick to what you're good at. I walked away. Now, I could have taken that, and that could have been the end of my story, and that's where I could be today. But I decided, no, I'm going to move things forward. So when I got into my first agency gig, starting as that link builder, that little desk, right, there was an opportunity that came up over time where a position opened. I might be able to do graphic design or web design. So I, brought some information in. I brought my energy in, and this is what was told to me. You don't want to do that. That's a woman's job. What? What world do we live in? What are we doing? So I was like, okay, all right, we're just going to put the head down. We're going to get to work. We're not going to quit. And I didn't. I put my head down. I did more work. Of course, that didn't make me happy, right? But I started doing things on my own. I looked at other opportunities, had this portfolio, I brought it in, and had maybe a 15-minute conversation. And then they said this: "That's all you have?" And I was like, yeah, that's what I got. Don't you love it? It's really great. The 4.5 pages of stuff. They weren't wrong in this case. I mean, I can understand that now, being on the other side of saying that's all you have. But I didn't quit, right? Kept going. I started doing stuff outside of work, started growing, started building my skills, building up my portfolio, just doing miscellaneous fun, random things, non-contract or anything like that. And I brought some of that into some coworkers, and then they said, "What kind of authority do you even have?" And it's just constant barrier. But that's part of what the journey is about. And I think sometimes we forget that building a brand, building a business, building your skill, building these things take overcoming adversity. It takes overcoming failure when the stats tell you no, when people tell you no, when situations are telling you no. Overcoming that and moving beyond that can take you to where you want to eventually be, which has led to speaking opportunities, led to a 40 under 40 award. I've worked with different celebrities and streamers. I've worked with a bunch of different businesses over the years. And that's phenomenal. But I wouldn't be here had I not had a really great group of people to work with day to day, and just really incredible opportunities over time by overcoming challenges and adversity. I would also recommend you check out Kevin Getch's story about Cheagle. There's a link in here later on. It's phenomenal. Just take a little bit of your time. You should check it out after the presentation. It's another great example of a story that connects with you emotionally. All right. So I've shared a lot of stuff, right? It's a lot of things and stuff, random things. So how do we get results? What are some practical things that you could do? Well, in the digital landscape, you have your website, your homepage, your about page, things that you can build up there messaging wise, right? In the headlines and the imagery, in video format, that sort of thing. You can also write blog posts, have articles, a number of other rich media things like video, audio, right? That's sort of the cream of the crop if you can have video, audio. So doing reels, building up your social media following, doing that on your brand, doing it on your personal, connect that with your brand. Because at the end of the day, the future is going to heavily depend on the idea of connecting with individuals and creating more relationship. That's always been important, right? That's always been a critical component to business success. But as there becomes more noise in the world overall, because there's more people or more competitors or more people in your space, it's going to be so important that you connect with your community. Even if those are 30 people, there might be 30 people here watching the stream. For some of you, you'd say, "Oh, that's like, wow, this person, you just showed this person that gets like 20,000 viewers." Yeah, but take a 10 by 10 room and put 30 people in it. That's a lot of people. And I really appreciate you for being here, because that's incredible. And if you're still here, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming here, because you matter. Like, you're a part of this journey with me. So connecting with your audience through video, opportunities like this can have a really big long-term impact. And then just being consistent about it. Sharing your story in person too, at like meetups, networking, that sort of thing. It can be really impactful. Your business story, how you started, it's kind of like that superhero origin story, right? But just don't be weird, right? So you can get weird. Don't be weird. Okay? Just try not to be weird. It's probably going to happen anyway, but just try. Okay, another little concept. We had building the app earlier, attention, platforms and culture, parasocial relationships. Let's talk about the ABCs. I love this. Thanks, Kevin, for inspiring me to use all these acronyms. The ABCs of content. I love this. I learned this early on. The advantages, benefits, conveniences, and I added the S, services. So what I mean by this is, when you're producing content, maybe you're promoting your blog or your product, and you're doing that on your blog or your website, maybe you're doing a landing page or social media. Think about these 4 components. the advantages, benefits, conveniences, and services. And you can work that into just general messaging on your website and headlines and that sort of thing. But you want to tell a cohesive story. And telling that can be challenging if you've got a lot of products, a lot of services and whatnot. But the way that I like to think about a website design and like a homepage design of a website is that it's your whole story on one page, your beginning, middle, and end. And that doesn't mean you need 1,000 words. It doesn't mean you need 2,000 words. It just means you need to tell a story. And that can be done visually. It can be done through headlines. It can be done through a lot of different ways. It's about understanding at the end of the day that users are far more likely to take action on something that connects with them emotionally rather than something that doesn't. If you take an example like Clear Eyes, right? If you watched TV and seen this commercial many years ago, this will resonate. But it's this guy, it's a commercial, and it's like, if you have dry red eyes, get clear eyes. And that was the line. And it's kind of funny and it's catchy and you remember it. And you like, I still remember it decades later, right? But what if you told that, but in a story? So the scene opens up. Jane Doe is running out of her home. She's running around the corner. You can see her eyes are red. She's turning the corner. And then, bam, she runs right into a pole. She couldn't see it because her eyes are red. And she is like rubbing her eyes. And she can't. Well, now she's running into a pole. And now she's like limping because she hit this pole and she dropped her coffee and she spilt it on her. She's got to go back inside. And now she's late for the interview. And she's driving and she's panicking and she looks at her clock and the door's locked. You're like, oh, you missed it. Now show the reverse of that. Jane Doe gets up. She's rushing out the door. You look at her, though, and she's got Clear Eyes bottle in her hand, and her eyes are clear, and she comes around the corner, and she just brazes the pole. She's in the car, and she gets to the interview on time, crushes it, goes home. That little story can be told in like 35 seconds to a minute, and that can be very powerful for a brand. Now, you might not have the ability to make that kind of production, but you can do things with your website, like implementing a clear call to action, like get started, strong messaging, like amplify your life, right? So you're resonating with an individual of a particular type of community, and you're tying that in with the type of website and product and service offering this is. Here's another example. Again, consistent, clear call to action stands out, grabs your attention visually, it drives you to the top right? And here you're talking about their story. Your culinary dreams are realized here. You're talking about their story. So it's this sort of complex merging of your story and their story and promoting that in different ways to build attention, to build engagement, to build action. Here's one more. You can see this example very similar. You've got your strong call to action, but you've also got dynamic rich content in the background. So this is a rotating hero video, as we refer to it as. All the previous examples have that as well. And you should consider having that on your site too, because video increases conversion, I want to say by 1 to 3%, depending on placement and all that stuff. So having video in your hero, having video in your content sections can make a huge impact. Now, when we take a look at some of these things and we test messaging and we test buttons, the results are pretty clear. Here we've got this example where we tested apply now versus get started as button language. And we went from, it's kind of fuzzy on the screen, but I think it's 146 to some, or 166 to 192. But that's 22 more conversions. We'll just say over 20 more conversions with the new calls to action, the new language. We'll just change a button text. That's it. Nothing else. Maybe we changed a headline. Maybe we didn't. But when your average value for your product is potentially like, 12 to 15,000, 20 conversions more a month is absolutely massive. It creates a massive business opportunity. And this test only ran 1 week. 1 week, right? Just one. Here's another example. More conversions, slightly higher conversion rate. And again, moving that needle. We're not talking about moving the entire mountain all at once, just a little bit at a time, because those little increments are going to compound and make huge impacts at the end of the day. Here's another example. 12 conversions versus 5. This ran for 1 week. Average customer lifetime values, 15,000, right? So increasing by 7 conversions is massive. Massive. Look at the conversion rate increase. Huge. Huge. So if you take 7 more conversions times 52 weeks, that's an astronomical number of opportunity. Tremendous amounts of opportunity. So those are some practical ways that you can make some adjustments, whether it's building up content for your site, implementing the ABCs, focusing on building attention, building parasocial relationships, focusing on different platforms and culture. All those things can really make a huge impact for you. All right, I know we're getting close to time here, so just a quick recap and wrap up. We have a couple of resources on our website. If you go to Webfor under the resources section, we have our unique value proposition worksheet, and we have our customer-centric strategy worksheet. You should check that out if you're interested in understanding your customers more, or if you're interested in building up some messaging on your own. Of course, we can also help in that space. Those are products and services we offer. So again, build the app. Attention, building relationship, right? Understanding platforms and culture, not letting your own bias get in the way. It's very hard. I know. Trust me, I know. But pushing past that, right? Capturing more people, telling a meaningful story on different platforms, whether it's your website or social media or that sort of thing. Share your ABCs. You can do that on social media. You can do that in other ways too. Branded content. I want to share this again. Branded content tells a story is 22 times more engaging. Story. That's where the heart of your marketing and focus should be, is telling that story and then having good experiences along the way that help build brand. And then implement theories and test results. And do this over and over and over and over again. All right, just some resources here. Again, we can send this out so you can click on these, but there's some great stuff from Kendra Hall. You should consider signing up to her newsletter. It's amazing. Lots of other content on our site. Checking out the Cheagle video with Kevin would be very beneficial to you as well to understand story even more. With that, thank you so much for your time. If you are interested in getting in touch with us, please let us know in the message box on our Get Started form. The link's on the screen. And I'm happy to connect with you and talk about your brand, talk about your story for a few hours and kind of ideate and brainstorm some things. So thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I know we got a few minutes left, so Michael, I'm going to hand it over to you and see if we have any questions.
Amazing, Jason. Thank you for sharing about the power of story and how to create deeper connections with your audience, and some of the statistics you shared around creating the emotional connection and feeling and the impact that can have on resonating with your audience were to me really mind-blowing. We'll now open up for a short Q&A. We only have a couple minutes here. And I know I have a few questions, but I don't want to take up all the time. But if we do get when we do get questions streaming in, we can always follow up after and answer those through socials or a quick phone call. So we can always chat after the event too. I'll get things started on the Q&A really quick here, Jason. What are your tips for a business owner who just wants to get started, like maybe creating content or crafting their story or building their audience? Like, what are some tips like to just kind of get your foot out the door for business owners?
Yeah, that's a really great question. The first thing that came to mind was just start. Just start. So many of us just think about doing things and don't do things. I could think about getting on a workout regimen all day long, day after day, week over week. But yeah, I know, because it's me too. But acting is much harder. Taking the action creates that sort of compound interest and that gain over time. So a couple things I would consider is, one, just start. But two, being your authentic self, being relentlessly you is incredibly important. trying to hide behind a character only works if you really enjoy that character. Otherwise, you're going to, again, suffer from burnout. So be your authentic self, tell your real story, share that with your community, and your community will follow. Even if it's one person matters. You got 30 people, like I said, in a 10 by 10 room, that matters. It's about starting, sharing your story, building your product, and building then consistent content around your story and your product over an extended period of time.
Awesome. That is amazing. And I agree. That's kind of the first, always the most difficult step. That's like getting your sneakers next to the door, right? Get you out the door to go on that first like little, that little motivation to get over the hill there. That is great. Please, we're at time here, but please, drop your info on the Get Started forum. As Jason mentioned, he is offering 3 hours of free analysis for your story, your CRO, branding, and more. So we really look forward to chatting with you. And thank you all for joining us for an amazing webinar, September webinar on brand stories, being relentlessly you, and business results. So thank you all, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate all of you being here.